The massive crystal dome of the council chamber stretched high above the polished floors of Nexus Prime. Admiral Cale Vornithin stood near the viewing windows, watching the endless stream of ships moving through the space lanes around the galaxy's most important station. His blue-scaled hands gripped the railing as he listened to another boring discussion about trade routes and tax collections. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Collective had ruled almost every star system anyone knew about. They brought peace, order, and protection to hundreds of species across the galaxy, or at least that was what they told themselves. Cale had been in the military long enough to know the truth was more complicated. "Admiral Vornithin, you have an urgent message," said his aide, a small creature with large eyes and gray skin. The aide's voice was nervous, which was unusual. Cale turned away from the window and walked to his communication station. The message was from Captain Zess Kelmorian, one of his best deep space scouts. She was stationed far out in the Outer Rim territories where few civilized species lived. "Admiral," Captain Kelmorian's image appeared on the screen. Her green skin looked pale, and her usually calm expression showed worry. "We have discovered something unusual. A new species in the Sol system about 47 light-years from our current position." Kyle raised one eyebrow. New species were found every few years, but they were usually primitive beings who still used fire and metal tools. "What makes this discovery special, Captain?" "Sir, these beings call themselves humans. They appear to be bipedal, similar to several known species. However, they have developed some level of technology. They have built structures on multiple planets in their system, and appear to have basic space travel capabilities." This was more interesting. Most new species had not even reached their own moons yet. "Have you made contact?" "No, sir. Following standard protocol, we have observed from a safe distance. However, the humans seem to be aware of our presence. They have pointed several large devices in our direction, though they have not attempted communication." Kyle thought about this for a moment. The humans might have basic sensors, but that was not too concerning. Even if they could see the scout ships, they would not be able to understand what they were looking at. "Continue monitoring, Captain. Send me a full report within 2 standard days. Include everything you can learn about their technology level and social structure." "Yes, sir." "There is one more thing, Admiral. The humans seem to have unified their planet under a single government. This is unusual for a species at their technological level. That was indeed strange. Most primitive species spent centuries fighting wars between different groups before they learned to work together. A unified planet suggested these humans might be more organized than usual." After ending the communication, Kyle walked back toward the main council chamber. High Counselor Thais Melkarid was speaking to the assembled representatives about mining rights in the 7th sector. Her purple skin gleamed under the chamber's lights, and her forearms moved gracefully as she spoke. Kyle waited for the appropriate moment to interrupt. When there was a pause in the discussion, he stepped forward. "High Counselor, I have received a report about a new species discovery in the Outer Rim. They appear to have achieved basic spaceflight and planetary unification." The chamber became quiet. Representatives from dozens of species turned to look at him. New discoveries always created interest, especially when the species showed promise. High Counselor Melkarid's large eyes focused on Cale. "Tell us more, Admiral." "The species calls itself human. They live in a system they call Sol, located in the outer edge of the galaxy. Our scouts report they have built settlements on multiple worlds and possess some level of technology." "How advanced?" asked Counselor Vex Thalarim, whose insect-like features twitched with curiosity. "Unknown at this time, Counselor. However, they detected our scout ships, which suggests they have developed sensors of some kind." A low murmur filled the chamber. Many species never developed the ability to detect collective scout ships, even after achieving spaceflight. "What is your recommendation, Admiral?" asked the High Counselor. Kyle had been thinking about this since receiving the report. "I recommend we follow standard first contact procedures. Send a diplomatic fleet to make contact and offer them protection under collective rule." This was how it always worked. The collective would arrive with a large fleet to show their power. They would offer the new species a choice: join the collective peacefully and accept protection, or be forced to join after their military forces were destroyed. Most species chose peace. "Who would you recommend to lead such a mission?" asked Counselor Melkarid. "Fleet Commander Zeph Torlani has experience with first contact situations. His 3rd Expeditionary Fleet is currently near that sector, and could reach the Sol system within 10 standard days." The High Counselor considered this. Fleet Commander Torlani was known for his success in bringing new species into the collective. He was firm but fair, and he understood how to show strength without being unnecessarily cruel. Very well. Send orders to Fleet Commander Torlani. He is to make contact with these humans and bring them into the collective. Standard protocols apply. Standard protocols meant the humans would be given a simple choice. They could accept collective protection and follow collective laws, or they could face the consequences. The consequences were always the same: complete military defeat followed by forced integration. As the council moved on to other business, Kyle remained near his communication station. Something about this situation felt different, though he could not explain why. The humans had unified their planet and detected collective scouts. These were signs of a more advanced species than usual. However, the collective had never encountered a species they could not handle. Their fleets were the largest and most powerful in the galaxy. Their technology was thousands of years ahead of most species. Even if the humans had developed some level of space travel, they would be like children playing with toys compared to collective military power. Still, Kale decided to send additional instructions to Fleet Commander Torlani. It would be wise to approach with caution and gather more information before making contact. 2 hours later, the orders were sent. Fleet Commander Torlani was to proceed to the Sol system with his full fleet. He would observe the humans carefully, then make contact according to established procedures. If the humans accepted collective protection, they would be welcomed as a new member species. If they refused, their military forces would be destroyed, and their planet would be occupied for their own protection. It was a routine mission. The collective had performed the same procedure hundreds of times over the centuries. Sometimes the new species welcomed them as saviors. Sometimes they fought back with primitive weapons that could barely scratch collective ship hulls. The result was always the same: another species brought into the peace and order of galactic civilization. Kale looked out the viewing windows again, watching the steady flow of traffic around Nexus Prime. Ships from dozens of species carried goods and passengers between the stars. This was what collective rule had created: a galaxy where beings could travel safely, trade freely, and live in peace. Soon, the humans would be part of this great civilization. They would learn to appreciate the benefits of collective protection. Their children would grow up knowing they were safe from the dangers that had once threatened their world. Admiral Kale. For Nithan had no way of knowing that he had just set in motion events that would change the galaxy forever. The humans were not like any species the collective had encountered before. They had been watching the galaxy for years, learning and preparing. They had made a choice to remain hidden, but they had also made a choice about what they would do if someone found them. The collective was about to learn that sometimes, the most dangerous species is the one that chooses to stay quiet. Captain Lee Dongmin stood in the observation deck of Deep Space Station Alpha, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. The station orbited at the edge of the Sol system, far beyond Pluto, where it could monitor space for any signs of visitors. For the past 3 days, his sensors had been tracking something that made his stomach tight with worry. "Captain, we're getting another transmission from the alien scouts," said Lieutenant Park Jiwon, his communication officer. Her fingers moved quickly over her control panel as she adjusted the signal filters. "Put it through the translation program," Lee said. The computer systems had been working for hours to understand the alien language. Earth's best scientists had spent decades preparing for this moment, but it still felt too soon. On Earth, in the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Kim Hyun-woo studied the reports from Deep Space Station Alpha. The walls around him showed holographic displays of the Sol system, with red dots marking the positions of the alien scout ships. There were 5 of them staying just outside the system's edge, clearly watching. "How long have they been there?" asked Dr. Park Ji-won, the lead scientist for Earth's First Contact project. She had spent 20 years studying the signals Earth's telescopes had detected from distant civilizations. 72 hours, Admiral Kim replied. "They're being careful, but they're definitely observing us. Our deep space sensors show larger ships moving in our direction." Dr. Park looked at the star charts on the main screen. "The signal patterns match what we detected from the galactic core regions. This is definitely a contact from the main galactic civilization." Admiral Kim nodded grimly. Earth had known about the galaxy's other inhabitants for almost 50 years. The first radio signals had been detected in 2341. followed by more sophisticated transmissions that showed a large, organized civilization spanning thousands of star systems. Earth's leaders had made a difficult decision. Watch and learn, but stay hidden. Has the president been informed? Dr. Park asked. President Yoon Jae-min will be here within the hour. The United Terran Defense Council is meeting an emergency session. In another part of the command center, Chief Engineer Choi Min-ho was running final checks on humanity's greatest secret. Deep in space, hidden behind a small moon near Jupiter, the Titan-class warship Indomitable Will waited in complete silence. All systems show green, reported Systems Officer Han Soo-young from her station aboard the massive ship. Gravitational manipulation cores are online. Quantum railgun arrays are charged and ready. Adaptive armor systems are functioning normally. The Indomitable Will was 15 kilometers long, 5 kilometers wide, and 3 kilometers tall. It was the largest warship ever built by humans, and it represented 50 years of secret development. While the galaxy used energy weapons and force shields, humans had taken a different path. Captain Nam Tai-hyun walked through the ship's command center, checking on his crew. The Indomitable Will carried 15,000 crew members, all volunteers who had trained for years in absolute secrecy. Every person aboard understood what was at stake. Area. Run a complete diagnostic on all weapon systems, Captain Nam said to the ship's artificial intelligence. Diagnostic complete. Captain? Arya responded with a calm female voice. All quantum railgun batteries are operational. Kinetic projectile magazines are fully loaded. Gravitational manipulation systems are ready for combat deployment. The ship's weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had seen in thousands of years. While other civilizations had moved to energy-based weapons, humans had perfected kinetic warfare to an art form. Their railguns could fire solid projectiles at 15% of light speed. The projectiles needed no explosives because pure momentum was more devastating than any chemical reaction. Captain, we're receiving new orders from Earth Command, said Communications Officer Bae Suman. Put it through. Admiral Kim Hyun-woo's face appeared on the main screen. Captain Nam, the alien scouts have been joined by a larger fleet. Long-range sensors show approximately 800 ships approaching our system. They'll arrive in 6 days. Captain Nam felt his crew members tense around him. 800 ships was a massive force, larger than anything humans had ever imagined facing. What are our orders, Admiral? Continue to observe. Do not reveal your position unless humanity faces immediate extinction. The President wants to try diplomacy first. Understood, sir. Back on Earth, President Yoon Jae-min sat in the emergency council chamber with his top advisors. The room was deep underground, protected by layers of armor and shielding that could survive a direct nuclear attack. Tell me about our defensive capabilities, the President said. Defense. Minister Lee Yujin activated a holographic display showing Earth's hidden military assets. In addition to the Indomitable Will, we have completed construction of 7 smaller Titan-class vessels. Each one is roughly half the size of the Indomitable Will, but carries similar weapon systems. The fleet includes the ship's Guardian's Edge, Iron Resolve, Stellar Fortress, Voidwalker, Starhammer, Stormbringer, and Eternal Vigil, added Admiral Kim. They're positioned throughout the system, all hidden and ready for action. President Yoon studied the display. What about our planetary defenses? Earth, Mars, and the Luna colonies are protected by quantum defense grids, said Chief of Staff Kim Woo-jin. The grids can project gravitational fields that will deflect most energy weapons. We also have orbital railgun platforms around each populated world. The President nodded slowly. And you believe these defenses will work against their technology? Dr. Park spoke up. Mr. President, we've been studying their transmissions for decades. Their technology is very advanced, but it follows patterns we recognize. They use energy shields, plasma weapons, and ion drives. Our kinetic weapons should be highly effective against energy-based defenses. The key advantage, added Admiral Kim, is that they won't expect our approach. According to our intelligence, most galactic species abandoned kinetic weapons thousands of years ago. They'll be prepared for energy combat, not solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. President Yoon was quiet for several minutes, thinking about the enormous responsibility on his shoulders. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this moment, but no amount of preparation could guarantee success. What do we know about their intentions? He asked. Based on communication intercepts, they appear to follow a standard contact protocol, Dr. Park explained. They approach new species with a large fleet to demonstrate power, then offer protection in exchange for joining their civilization. And if we refuse? Their history suggests they use military force to compel cooperation. The president looked around the table at his advisors. These men and women represented the best minds on Earth, and they had all devoted their lives to protecting humanity's future. Very well. We'll try diplomacy first, but we'll be ready for the alternative. Send word to all our hidden fleets. If negotiations fail, they are authorized to reveal themselves and defend our worlds with all necessary force. Throughout the Sol system, crews aboard hidden human warships received their final orders. The ships had been built in secret shipyards in the asteroid belt, using resources mined from distant asteroids and comets. Their existence was known only to a few thousand people in Earth's government and military. Commander Shin Hyemin, captain of the Titan-class ship Eternal Vigil, positioned near Saturn, read her orders carefully. Like all the ship commanders, she understood that humanity's survival might depend on their actions in the coming days. All stations, prepare for possible combat operations, she announced to her crew. We've trained for this moment our entire careers. Remember your duty, remember your training, and remember that Earth is counting on us. The alien fleet continued its approach towards Sol system, unaware that humanity was not the primitive species they expected to find. Hidden in the darkness of space, 8 of the most powerful warships ever built waited in silence. Humanity had chosen to remain hidden for 50 years, watching and learning while the galaxy remained unaware of their existence. But now that choice was coming to an end. Soon the galaxy would learn that Earth's children had grown strong in the darkness between the stars. The question was whether first contact would end in friendship or in fire. Fleet Commander Zeph Torlani stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the massive cruiser Galactic Harmony. Through the viewing screen, he could see the small yellow star that the humans called Sol, growing larger as his fleet approached. 847 ships flew in perfect formation behind him. The largest first contact fleet assembled in over 2 centuries. Commander, we are receiving signals from the third planet, reported Communications Officer Vel Therionis. The transmissions appear to be directed at us specifically. Can we understand their language? Torlani asked. Our translation computers have been working on their broadcast for the past 2 days. We have achieved roughly 70% comprehension. Shall I open a channel? Torlani nodded. This was the moment he had prepared for during the entire journey. First contact with a new species was always delicate, but the procedures were well established. Show strength, offer protection, accept submission. On Earth, President Yoon Jae-min sat in the Emergency Command Center, surrounded by his top advisors and military commanders. The main screen showed the approaching alien fleet, now only a few hours away from the edge of the Sol system. Mr. President, they're opening a communication channel, announced Dr. Park Ji-won. Put it through, the president said. He had rehearsed this moment many times, but his hands still felt damp with nervousness. The screen flickered, then showed the image of a tall, thin being with pale blue skin and large, intelligent eyes. When it spoke, the translation computer converted its words into Korean. Greetings, inhabitants of the Sol system. I am Fleet Commander Zeph Torlani of the Galactic Collective. We come in peace to welcome you into our great civilization. President Yoon leaned forward slightly. Welcome to our system, Fleet Commander. I am President Yoon Jae-min, elected leader of the United Earth Government. We are honored by your visit. Torlani smiled, showing pointed teeth. You speak with wisdom, President Yoon. The Collective has brought peace and prosperity to thousands of worlds across the galaxy. We offer the same benefits to your species. We are very interested in learning more about your civilization, the President replied carefully. Perhaps we could arrange for a smaller meeting to discuss the possibilities. The fleet commander's expression became more serious. President Yoon, you do not understand the situation. The Collective does not negotiate with primitive species. We offer protection and guidance. You must accept our authority for your own good. In the command center, Admiral Kim Hyun-woo felt his jaw tighten. The alien's tone had changed from diplomatic to commanding in seconds. President Yoon kept his voice calm. Fleet Commander, we appreciate your offer, but we would like time to discuss this with our people. This is a decision that affects our entire world. Time is not necessary, Torlani said firmly. Primitive species cannot make such decisions properly. The collective will assume responsibility for your world's protection and development. You will surrender your military forces and accept collective governors. The words hit the command center like a physical blow. Dr. Park looked shocked, while Defense Minister Lee Eugen's face turned red with anger. President Yoon struggled to keep his diplomatic composure. Fleet Commander, I must respectfully decline your offer. Humanity chooses to remain independent. Torlani's eyes narrowed. President Yoon, you do not comprehend the consequences of defying the collective. We have destroyed entire civilizations that refused our protection. Your primitive weapons cannot stand against our fleet. We understand your power, the president replied, but we also understand our right to choose our own path. Then you choose destruction. Torlani's image disappeared from the screen. In the Sol system, alarms began blaring aboard every human station and ship. Deep Space Station Alpha detected massive energy buildups across the alien fleet. They're powering weapons, shouted Lieutenant Park Ji-won from her sensor station. Captain Lee Dong-min grabbed his communication headset. All stations, this is Alpha Command. The aliens are preparing to attack. Repeat, hostile action is imminent. Aboard the Galactic Harmony, Fleet Commander Torlani gave his orders with cold efficiency. Target their military installations and major population centers. Destruction level should be sufficient to demonstrate our power, but leave the majority of the infrastructure intact. Sir, asked his weapons officer, shall we target their homeworld directly? No. Begin with their outer settlements. When they see the destruction, they will surrender quickly. The collective fleet opened fire on Mars Colony 7, home to 50,000 human miners and researchers. Brilliant beams of plasma energy lanced across space toward the red planet. Then something impossible happened. The energy beams simply stopped. They struck an invisible barrier around Mars and scattered harmlessly into space like light hitting a mirror. What happened? Torlani demanded. Sir, our weapons appear to have struck some form of defensive screen. All energy was deflected. That's impossible. Our sensors detected no defensive installations. On Mars, Commander Bae Suman watched from the colony's command center as the alien attack scattered against their gravitational defense grid. The grid was invisible to most sensors, but it could bend space itself to deflect energy weapons. All colonies, this is Mars Command. She broadcast. The quantum defense grids are functioning normally. We are protected. Torlani's fleet tried again, this time targeting the Luna settlements around Earth's moon. Again, their energy weapons scattered harmlessly against defensive barriers they could not see or understand. Sir, none of our weapons are having any effect, reported the weapons officer. Increase power. Target their homeworld directly. The entire collective fleet focused their combined firepower on Earth itself. 800 ships fired simultaneously, creating a beam of energy that could have vaporized a small moon. The beam struck Earth's quantum defense grid and dispersed into harmless light that painted beautiful colors across the planet's sky. President Yoon watched the light show from the command center's external cameras. All defensive grids are holding, reported Admiral Kim. No damage to any of our worlds. Commander, asked Dr. Park, shouldn't we respond? The president considered carefully. Earth's hidden fleet could destroy the aliens easily, but he wanted to give them one more chance to choose peace. Open a channel to their fleet commander. President Yoon's image appeared on Torlani's bridge screen. Fleet Commander, your weapons cannot harm us. We offer you one opportunity to leave our system in peace. Torlani stared in disbelief. Impossible. No primitive species possesses such defensive technology. We are not as primitive as you believed, the president said quietly. Leave now while you still can. Never. Torlani shouted. All ships prepare for close assault. We will destroy their worlds with overwhelming firepower. The collective fleet moved deeper into the Sol system, preparing for a massive coordinated attack on Earth itself. Their ships formed attack formations that had conquered hundreds of worlds. In the darkness near Jupiter, Captain Nam Tae-hyun received the signal he had been waiting for. Captain, we have confirmation, reported Communications Officer Bae Suman. The aliens have rejected diplomacy and are moving to attack Earth. Captain Nam looked around his command bridge at the faces of his crew. These men and women had trained their entire lives for this moment. All stations, this is Captain Nam. The indomitable will is authorized for combat operations. Prepare to decloak. Sir, asked Weapons Officer Oh Ji-won, shall we warn them first? Captain Nam thought about the thousands of years of galactic history. about all the species that had been forced to submit to the collective's rule. "No warnings," he said. "They made their choice when they attacked civilians." Throughout the Sol system, 7 other Titan-class warships received similar orders. Humanity had tried diplomacy. They had offered peace. The aliens had chosen war. "Arya, decloak the ship," Captain Nam ordered. "Decloaking now, Captain." The indomitable will materialized between the collective fleet and Earth like a mountain appearing from nowhere. 15 kilometers of human engineering and determination hung in space, bristling with weapons that the galaxy had forgotten how to fight. Fleet Commander Torlani stared at his sensors in complete shock. "What is that?" "Sir, it appears to be a ship, but our computers cannot determine its size. The readings are impossible." For several long moments, both fleets simply stared at each other across the void. Then Captain Nam Taehyun opened a communication channel that reached every ship in the collective fleet. "This is Captain Nam Taehyun of the Terran Defense Force. You have attacked our civilians. You have rejected our offer of peace. You have chosen to bring war to our system." His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of absolute determination. "You now face the consequences of that choice." Fleet Commander Zeph Torlani stared at the massive shape that had appeared before his fleet. His sensors could barely comprehend what they were detecting. The human ship was larger than some space stations he had seen, and it had appeared from nowhere without any warning. "Weapons officer, target that ship immediately," Torlani ordered. "All fleet units concentrate fire on the unknown vessel." "Sir, are you certain?" asked his tactical officer. "We have never encountered a ship of that size. Perhaps we should attempt communication first." "They rejected our generous offer of protection," Torlani replied coldly. "They chose war. Now they will face the full power of the collective." Aboard the indomitable Will, Captain Nam Taehyun watched the alien fleet's weapons charging. His crew worked calmly at their stations, following procedures they had practiced thousands of times in secret. "Captain, they're targeting us with all available weapons," reported Tactical Officer Park Seojin. "Let them fire first," Captain Nam said. "I want them to understand what they're facing." "Sir, their weapons are significantly more powerful than our intelligence estimates suggested," warned Systems Officer Han Soo-young. "Energy readings are off our charts. Area, what is the status of our adaptive armor systems?" "All adaptive armor plates are functioning normally, Captain," the ship's AI responded. "I am analyzing the incoming weapon signatures and preparing countermeasures." The collective fleet opened fire. 800 ships unleashed their full power simultaneously. Plasma beams, ion cannons, and particle weapons struck the indomitable Will with enough energy to destroy a small planet. The massive human warship didn't even slow down. The energy weapons struck the adaptive armor plating and simply dispersed. The armor analyzed each incoming attack and instantly changed its molecular structure to absorb or deflect the energy. What should have been a devastating assault became nothing more than a light show. "Impossible," whispered Torlani. "Our weapons have no effect at all." On the bridge of the indomitable Will, Captain Nam watched the tactical display with satisfaction. "Damage report." "No damage to any system, Captain," reported Chief Engineer Choi Minho. "The adaptive armor is performing exactly as designed. Their energy weapons cannot penetrate our defenses." "Sir, we're receiving communications from the other Titan-class ships," said Communications Officer Bae Suman. "They're requesting permission to decloak and join the engagement." Captain Nam considered this. The collective fleet was large, but a single Titan-class ship could handle the entire force. However, he wanted to send a clear message to the galaxy. "Grant permission. All ships are authorized to decloak and take defensive positions." Across the Sol system, 7 more massive warships materialized from the darkness. The Guardian's Edge appeared near Mars, its weapons trained on the collective ships in that area. The Iron Resolve decloaked near Venus, while the Stellar Fortress positioned itself to protect the Luna colonies. Fleet Commander Torlani felt his blood turn cold as he watched ship after ship appear on his sensors. Each one was massive, and each one was clearly designed for war. "How many ships do they have?" he asked weakly. "Sir, sensors now detect 8 large vessels, all comparable in size to the first one. There may be others we cannot detect." Captain Nam opened a communication channel to the collective fleet. "Fleet Commander Torlani, you have seen our defensive capabilities. You cannot harm our worlds, and you cannot harm our ships. I will give you one final opportunity to withdraw from our system. Torlani's pride would not allow him to retreat. The collective had never been defeated by any species, especially not by primitives from the galactic edge. Attack formation Delta 7, he ordered his fleet. Close to short range and use concentrated firepower. No primitive species can stand against the might of the collective. The alien ships moved forward, trying to get close enough to overwhelm the human defenses with sheer firepower. They spread out to attack the Titan-class ships from multiple directions. Captain, they're moving to close range, reported Weapons Officer Jiwon. Very well, Captain Nam said calmly. Aria, target the lead cruiser. Quantum Railgun Array 1, prepare to fire. Target acquired, Captain. Railgun Array 1 is ready. Fire. The Indomitable Will's first shot was a single projectile launched from its primary railgun battery. The projectile was a simple piece of dense metal weighing only 50 kilograms. However, it was accelerated to 15% of the speed of light by the ship's quantum magnetic systems. The projectile crossed the distance to the collective flagship in milliseconds. It struck the Galactic Harmony's energy shields with the force of a nuclear weapon, but the shields had no effect on solid matter traveling at relativistic speeds. The projectile passed through the shields as if they didn't exist and punched through the ship's hull like paper. The kinetic energy was so enormous that the entire cruiser simply disintegrated. One moment it was there. The next it was an expanding cloud of superheated. Gas Fleet Commander Zeph Torlani and his crew of 3,000 died so quickly they never knew what hit them. Target destroyed, reported Weapons Officer Jiwon. No trace of the enemy flagship. Remains. The collective fleet stopped moving. Every captain stared at the place where their flagship had been, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. Their most powerful ship had been destroyed by a single shot from an unknown weapon. Captain Nam felt no satisfaction from the destruction. These beings had chosen their fate when they attacked civilians. Open a channel to the surviving ships, he ordered. Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Nam Tae-hyun. Your fleet commander is dead because he chose war over peace. I am offering you the same choice he refused. Leave our system now or share his fate. The temporary fleet commander, a junior officer named Sub-Commander Kelthanorix, stared at his communication screen in terror. He had never imagined anything like the weapon that had just destroyed the flagship. Human vessel, we cannot retreat without orders from the Galactic Council. Then you will die here, Captain Nam replied. All human ships you are authorized to engage. Show no mercy to those who would harm our people. The 8 Titan-class warships opened fire simultaneously. Their quantum railgun arrays launched hundreds of projectiles at relativistic speeds. Each shot was perfectly aimed by advanced AI systems that could calculate the movement of enemy ships with absolute precision. The collective ships tried to return fire, but their energy weapons were useless against the human vessels. Meanwhile, the human kinetic weapons tore through their ranks like invisible death. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were destroyed in seconds by weapons they couldn't see coming. The Guardian's Edge eliminated 17 cruisers with a single salvo. The Iron Resolve destroyed an entire squadron of destroyers with precise shots to their reactor cores. The Stellar Fortress methodically targeted the larger vessels, its massive railguns capable of destroying multiple ships with each shot. The battle was not a fight. It was an execution. Sub-Commander Thanorix watched in horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed. Ships that had served the collective for centuries were reduced to scrap metal and expanding gas clouds. The human weapons seemed to hit with impossible accuracy, and nothing could stop them. All ships retreat immediately, he broadcast on all frequencies. Emergency jump, all vessels retreat. But it was too late. The human ships had positioned themselves perfectly to prevent escape. Every time a collective vessel tried to activate its faster-than-light drive, precisely aimed railgun shots disabled their engines. Captain Nam watched the tactical display as the enemy fleet was methodically eliminated. His weapons officers worked with calm efficiency. Each shot carefully planned to minimize the enemy's ability to fight back or escape. Captain, we're detecting distress signals from several enemy vessels, reported Communications Officer Bae Sumin. Are they requesting surrender? Yes, sir. Multiple ships are powering down weapons and requesting mercy. Captain Nam considered this. The collective had shown no mercy to countless species over the millennia, but humanity chose to be better than their enemies. All ships, cease fire, Allow surrendering vessels to power down completely. Any ship that attempts to activate weapons or escape systems will be destroyed immediately. The surviving collective ships, fewer than 100 out of the original 847, powered down their systems and waited in the darkness of space. Their crews sat in stunned silence, unable to comprehend what had just happened. For the first time in 3,000 years, a collective fleet had been completely defeated. The humans had demonstrated technology and tactics that made the galaxy's most powerful military force look like children playing with toys. Captain Nam opened a final communication to the surviving ships. You came to our system as conquerors. You attacked our civilians. You rejected our offer of peace. Remember this moment when you return to your masters. Remember that humanity chooses peace, but we are prepared for war. Tell your Galactic Council that humanity claims no territory beyond our system. We seek no conquest, but we will defend ourselves and our allies with absolute force. The choice of peace or war is yours to make. In the command center on Earth, President Yoon Jae-min watched the tactical display show the end of the battle. The alien threat had been eliminated in less than 17 minutes. The crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. High Counselor Thys Melkerid stood at the center of the circular room, watching the recording from Sub-Commander Kel Thanorix for the third time. Around her, representatives from dozens of species sat in stunned silence. The recording showed the complete destruction of the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet, 847. Ships reduced to expanding clouds of gas and metal in 17 minutes. The humans had used weapons that bypassed energy shields completely. Weapons that struck with impossible precision and devastating force. The recording is authentic, announced technical analyst Voss Kelmerade. We have verified the transmission signatures and confirmed the identity codes. This actually happened. Admiral Kael Vornithin felt sick as he watched the footage again. The Galactic Harmony, flagship of the fleet, simply ceased to exist after being hit by a single projectile. The human weapon had passed through their best shields as if they were made of air. How is this possible? Asked Counselor Vex Thalarim. No species in the galaxy possesses such technology. According to Sub-Commander Thanorix's report, said High Counselor Melkerid, the humans used kinetic weapons. Solid projectiles accelerated to extremely high speeds. Kinetic weapons? Counselor Thalarim's insect features twitched with confusion. But the galaxy abandoned such primitive technology thousands of years ago. Apparently, said Admiral Vornithin grimly, we were wrong to do so. The recording continued, showing the 8 massive human warships systematically destroying the collective fleet. Each human vessel was larger than anything in the collective navy, and their weapons fired with deadly accuracy that seemed almost impossible. The humans offered multiple opportunities for peaceful withdrawal, noted Counselor Zara Nethilos. Fleet Commander Torlani chose to attack civilian targets instead of accepting their diplomatic offers. High Counselor Melkerid nodded slowly. This is true. The humans showed remarkable restraint. They could have destroyed our entire fleet immediately, but they chose to demonstrate their defensive capabilities first. 2 days later, the surviving ships of the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet limped into Nexus Prime's orbital shipyards. The crews were transferred immediately to medical facilities, where they were treated for shock and trauma as much as physical injuries. Sub-Commander Thanorix stood before the full Galactic Council, his hands shaking as he delivered his report in person. Honored counselors, the human ships appeared from nowhere. Our sensors could not detect them until they chose to reveal themselves. Their weapons ignore our shields completely. They fire solid projectiles that travel faster than anything we have ever seen. How many human ships did you observe? Asked Admiral Vornithin. 8 large vessels, each comparable in size to our largest battle stations. However, they may possess many more. We only saw the ships they chose to show us. The implications were terrifying. If humanity possessed a large fleet of such vessels, they could potentially challenge the entire galactic collective. What were your impressions of their intentions? Asked High Counselor Melkerid. They appeared to want peace, Counselor. They offered us multiple opportunities to withdraw. Their leader stated clearly that they seek no conquest and claim no territory beyond their own system. 3 weeks after the battle, a new message arrived at Nexus Prime. The transmission came from the Sol system, broadcast on frequencies the collective used for diplomatic communications. Dr. Park Ji-won's image appeared on the council chamber's main screen. She was an older human woman with kind eyes and gray hair, wearing simple clothing that suggested a scientist rather than a military officer. Honored members of the Galactic Council, she began. I am Dr. Park Ji-won, representing the United Earth Government. We come to you with an offer of peaceful contact and mutual cooperation. The council chamber buzzed with surprise conversations. The humans were offering to meet with them after demonstrating such overwhelming military superiority. We understand that our defensive actions may have caused concern among your member species. Please know that humanity seeks no conflict with the Galactic Collective. We defended ourselves only because we were attacked. High Counselor Melkerid gestured for silence. Our species wishes to establish formal diplomatic relations with yours. We believe that peaceful cooperation benefits all civilized beings, Dr. Park continued. We request permission to send a diplomatic mission to Nexus Prime. Our delegation will arrive aboard one of our ships to ensure their safety, but we come with peaceful intentions. The Council voted unanimously to accept the human diplomatic mission. 2 weeks later, the massive Titan-class warship Eternal Vigil arrived at Nexus Prime. The ship dwarfed the station's defensive platforms, a clear reminder of human military capabilities. Dr. Park led the diplomatic team that docked with Nexus Prime. She was accompanied by Ambassador Lee Yujin, a skilled negotiator who had prepared for this moment his entire career. Security Chief Kim Woo-jin and Technical Advisor Shin Hyeman completed the small delegation. When Dr. Park entered the council chamber, the assembled representatives stood to show respect. She was the first being in galactic history to address the council as an equal rather than a supplicant. Honored counselors, Dr. Park began. We have watched your galaxy for decades. We have seen the peace you have maintained and the prosperity you have brought to countless worlds. We admire what you have accomplished. High Counselor Melkerid felt a mixture of pride and nervousness. We thank you for your kind words, Dr. Park. However, we must address the recent conflict in your system. Of course, Counselor. We regret that first contact ended in violence. However, we cannot accept the forced integration of our world into any larger government. Humanity chooses its own path. But how can we ensure peace between our civilizations if you remain outside collective authority? Asked Counselor Thalarum. Dr. Park smiled gently. Counselor, we propose something that has never existed in your galaxy before. A relationship between equal powers. We offer cooperation without submission, friendship without dominance. The concept was revolutionary. For 3,000 years, the collective had been the galaxy's only major power. Every species was either a member or was considered primitive. The idea of an independent equal had never been considered. What exactly are you proposing? Asked Admiral Vornithin. Ambassador Lee Yujin stepped forward. We propose the Treaty of Sol, establishing humanity as an independent sovereign territory. We would maintain our own government and military while engaging in trade, scientific cooperation, and diplomatic relations with collective member species. And if conflicts arise between human and collective interests, asked High Counselor Melkerid, we propose the establishment of joint arbitration committees to resolve disputes peacefully, Ambassador Lee replied. War should always be the last option, not the first. The negotiations took 3 weeks. The final Treaty of Sol was unlike any document in galactic history. It recognized humanity as a sovereign power with rights equal to the collective itself. Trade agreements, scientific exchanges, and diplomatic protocols were established to ensure peaceful coexistence. Most importantly, the treaty included mutual defense provisions. If either humanity or the collective faced threats from outside forces, they would assist each other as allies rather than as protector and protected. 6 months after the treaty was signed, Captain Nam Taehyun stood on the bridge of a new kind of ship. The bridge builder was jointly constructed by human and collective engineers, combining the best technologies of both civilizations. It was the first vessel in what would become a joint exploration fleet. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the collective science vessel, Stellar Discovery, reported his communication officer. Put it through. The image of Captain Vel Thessarian, a collective officer with blue-scaled skin, appeared on the screen. Captain Nam, our joint survey of the Kepler Nebula is complete. We've discovered 17 new worlds suitable for colonization. Excellent work, Captain Thessarian. Which species are interested in settling these worlds? 3 collective member species have expressed interest, and we've also received applications from 2 human colony groups. Captain Nam smiled. This was how it should work. Cooperation instead of conquest. Discovery instead of domination. On Earth, Admiral Kim Hyunwoo reviewed reports from the joint exploration missions. Human and collective ships were working together to map unexplored regions of the galaxy. The combination of human military technology and collective scientific knowledge was proving incredibly effective. President Yoon Jae-min, now in his second term, had just signed agreements for the establishment of joint research facilities. Human scientists were learning from thousands of years of collective knowledge, while collective researchers gained access to human innovations in quantum physics and gravitational manipulation. The galaxy was changing. For the first time in millennia, there were 2 major powers working together instead of one power ruling over everyone else. Smaller species that had never had a voice in galactic affairs found themselves with new opportunities and protections. Dr. Park Ji-won, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, stood once again before the assembled representatives.